think I got it up to about 135. Holy hell rain. That's not good. This car has drag slicks on it. We're spinning. Car does not look good. And this car is sponsored to go on Hot Rod Power Tour in like a month. Things that the Dart, if I hadn't built that car, never would have happened. I had no idea what was going to happen after that. Like, it just kind of like set the wheels in motion for my business. So let's talk about a little history about where we've been. The car that kind of put me on the map as a builder was called Dart Vader. 67 Dodge Dart. I bought the car from a friend who was kind of towing cars for us. He was like, I have this project that I've totally stalled on. I don't think I'm going to finish it. I went and looked at it. It was in the dark corner of this shop in East Oakland, kind of a scary place. And I was like, yeah, this looks like kind of my speed. He had, car was there, it was kind of partly sanded, 360 small block sitting on a stand that had been mostly built, needed some finish work, trunk full of parts. Why not? So I said, yeah, we made a deal. I can't remember what I paid for it. I want to say it was like $5,000. Not that much money for what was there. There was a bunch of new parts still in packages and everything, but he just wanted out of it. Common story, right? He tows it back to my shop and I lay out everything and I kind of take inventory of what's there, and I'm looking at this car and I'm like, back then, like when this car was built, this was an economy car, right? When you drive it around, people are like, oh, my mom had one of those, my grandpa had one of those, oh, that's really cool. The stuff that people are building now is more the Chargers and Challengers and Cudas and Hemi cars and, the higher dollar stuff. And I said, this is kind of neat because this car, it's got a nice look to it. It's muscular. It's kind of underappreciated a little bit. So I started formulating this vision in my head of, a car that just kind of looks mean and nasty, and wanted the exhaust to have like a really sharp tone to it. And I was like, I think I'm just going to do this car all black. Black on black. That kind of set the tone initially. The name Dart Vader came a little later when the car was actually built, but that kind of started it. Here I am in the shop with a pile of parts. I had just hired a couple guys that started working for me. I said, all right, let's just do the basics, right? One, we've got to upgrade suspension because I want this thing to handle. That time, Hotchkiss had a really nice set of suspension that came out for this car, for the Mopar A-body platform. Geometry corrected upper control arms, spindles, rear springs. We kept it leaf spring, real simple. Big old sway bar in the front. Kind of upgraded all that stuff, so that was underpinnings. Finished building that 360, of course, painted it black. Dressed it up with some fabricated aluminum valve covers. And part of what set the tone for this is I wanted the car to be super simple, like super, more design aesthetic. When you look at air cleaners and valve covers that you can get for muscle cars, they all kind of tend to lean toward the flames and barbed wire and, skulls and all that stuff. I wanted to keep this thing understated. Really just like the shiny parts were going to be things that were simple, fabricated, beautiful, not overdone. We spent countless hours block sanding and getting this car straight. I mean, if you know this 60s darts, it's just basically flat slabs all the way down the car. There's one plane here, one plane here, one plane here, and it's just, the whole way down the car. And I was like, man, if you paint a car like this black, you've got to do it right. So it was just hand blocks, hand blocks, hand blocks, prime, hand blocks, reprime, We ended up painting it House of Color black, which in my opinion, at least at that time, is like the deepest, darkest black you can get. And then I was like, I like this idea of like, kind of a trick in the 80s that a lot of people did was this monochromatic paint scheme. A lot of cars came out back then where it was like, the bumpers and the body and the wheels and everything would be painted all the same color. I wanted to do that, but instead of doing everything gloss black, I wanted to change it up with some satin black, some flat black, some wrinkle black. While black technically isn't a color, it's a color. And sheen changes that color and changes the way your eye looks at things and the way things flow. I really wanted to play around with different blacks on it. The wheels we chose were, the quintessential Chrysler cop car wheel. That's what they had on cop cars in the 60s and 70s. They're a simple design. They're really strong. Still get emails about this and calls. What size wheels are those? What wheels are those? What size tires? I'm building a Dart and I want it to look the same, so kind of cool. 15-inch wheels at a time where everybody's doing 18s, 19s, 20s. Now people are doing 26s. Like, let's keep it 15s. Let's make it a muscle car. It had sticky Mickey, big drag slicks on the back. As much tire as I could stuff in that thing without mini tubbing it and getting crazy. Because really part of the goal with this car was to make it something that your average guy could build in his garage. He might not have the design sense to think about the details the way that I did, but really what sold that car and the way that it looked was the stance. Little bit high in the rear, nice and low in the front, tires tucked really just kind of dead nuts. Like, it was always hard to describe when that car was sitting in front of you. It had a presence. It just looks mean and mad and angry. You're like, man, this thing's just so cool. And it's like, that had everything to do with, one, the choice of color, sheen, all the stuff I just spoke about. But the way that it sat, the way that it looked like it was a Black Panther ready to pounce. I built basically 2 iterations of that car. Initially, just black car, put the little GTS hood with the normal little bumps on the side. It was all black. The bumpers were a satin black. Had this 360 in it, carbureted, simple stuff. This is a shot that a local photographer took that we went out to Alameda and I paid him to take some photos for me of the car before it went to SEMA and other things. But at the end of the shoot, we're out on a former naval base out in Alameda, California, and we're just kind of in the middle of this huge expanse. At the end of the shoot, he was shooting some detail shots and stuff, and I was like, maybe let's do a burnout shot. Let's see what we can do, And he was like, okay, I'm game. So he's kind of like laying on the ground behind me with his camera, and I just set the line lock and just let it rip and just stayed in it and just kept staying in it. And the car's just rolling, smoking. I'm just looking back at the tire. One of my favorite shots, this shot's actually in the Ron Francis wiring catalog. They used it for their shot. They used it in a few ads. Such a cool, fun time I had. And I remember when we left the base and we were going back to the shop, I'm rolling through the Alameda Tunnel, which is a fun place to make a bunch of noise because tunnel bombing's fun. But I'm still hearing rocks stuck to those rear tires because they got so sticky and so hot that they were picking up everything on the drive through, and there's rocks just pink, 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 pink inside the wheel wells. It was super fun. I was taking it to some local shows, and of course, I didn't have any customers at the time. Like, we were just starting out, so how do you get customers? Is you build cars. They're calling cards, right? So had a couple cars built, took it to a local car show. Good Guys show here in Northern California. I'm sitting at this Good Guys show and hanging out, and one of the guys from Ron Francis Wiring, he's like, well, they got their booth in there, and he's on his break, and he's like, I'd befriended them over the years of kind of showing up at shows and getting out and doing things, as you should do when you're a small business owner, and I'd spoken to the owner of the company and his employees, and we kind of became friends over a year or so. Anyway, this guy comes over, and he's sitting, taking his break, and he's checking out the cars, and we're hanging out, and phone rings, walks off to the side, takes his call. A couple minutes later, he comes back, and he's like, oh man, I just got really bad news. And I'm like, oh man, everything cool? And he's like, we were supposed to have this car that this other builder is building in our SEMA booth, and SEMA's like 2 months away. And he's like, and the guy just pulled the plug on us because he got a better deal with a bigger brand. And I was like, man, that really sucks. And I was like, what about bringing my car? And he looks at me and he goes, that would look pretty sweet in a booth. And I'm like, all right. And he's like, I'll talk to Scott. Scott and I talked, and I'm like, I want to bring my car. Definitely, this is a great opportunity. But I want to highlight your products. And it's going to SEMA, which is kind of like, I'm going to the big dance, right? So we're going to make some improvements. So I went through his catalog. I sent him a list of things because I'm a marketing guy. I mean, if it's going to be in the Ron Francis wiring booth, we've got to have some Ron Francis product in it, right? I mean, I had a Ron Francis wiring harness in it, but that's just a wiring harness. We need more. So I went through the catalog. I'm like, oh, we're going to do your push button start. We're going to do, some really cool fan relay setups and things like that. So I just went through the catalog. He's like, yeah, I'll send you all that. No problem. And of course, me being me and, thinking about things, and this is my chance, right? So I said, I'm not going to stop there. I'm going to change a few more things. I'm going to put a digital dash in it. And that means I got to fabricate a panel because this is an underappreciated platform. Nobody makes anything for this car at this point, right? So we make this steel dash panel, and I put a race pack gauge setup in it. Really cool digital dash, more kind of a road race inspired thing, but I thought it fit the bill, right? So we did that. I thought about some more things. I'm like, well, I mean, this hood is kind of cool, but it's just got these bumps in the side. What if I made some custom aluminum bezels that really showed off that hood? And really what that hood's supposed to be is it's supposed to be functional. It's supposed to vent heat, right? But it's kind of a Chrysler marketing trick. It didn't actually do anything. It just had trim in it that looked like it vented heat. So I'm like, well, if I make these panels, I'm actually going to cut holes and actually make this thing vent heat. This is sweat every detail, this engine bay. I mean, it's just a Chrysler 360 with aluminum manifold and the carburetor, but it's got fabricated valve covers. It's got a custom made aluminum thing for the radiator. This is kind of like more of a circles track style air cleaner where it was just spun aluminum and then I brushed it and clear coated it to make it match the valve covers. Really detailed stuff. It had, one of the first Braille batteries in any of these cars because it was just so small and compact I could put it anywhere I wanted to. And one thing that's really key to notice is this car's got air conditioning, and on Chrysler air conditioning setups, the air conditioning compressor is like right top and center in the motor. It's just so ugly. I decided, hey, I can't have that. So I built a bracket to hold the air conditioning and dropped the alternator down low on this side and then had to redo the power steering bracket. So it was all this whole pain in the butt. Anyway, to the point of after this magazine came out, I was getting phone calls like, where did you get that air conditioning bracket? Where did you get that? How did you get that set up to look so clean? I started making them for people. I sold a handful of them. I still have a Chrysler small block that I would use to mock up the pieces that I cut out in CAD and plasma cut. I would mock everything up on there, tack it together, and then sit at my bench and TIG weld them, sandblast them, paint them, and send them out. It's just one of those little things that we really sweated about because I wanted it to look better. And the aftermarket for Chrysler stuff just isn't Chevy stuff. So you can't just buy anything you want off the shelf. So we just solved those problems ourselves. I had, 2 months to do all this work. And I basically rebuilt a considerable portion of the car. I did a lot of work to this thing to the point where right before going to SEMA, I was working around the clock. And I was calling friends up and I was like, hey, I'm working on the Dart like all night. Can you bring snacks and moral support and like make sure I don't fall and scratch anything? Or I'd, have a friend hold up a piece of trim while I'm working on it or whatever. Because I have ADHD tendencies and because I went to art school, I am prone to like to do my best work at the last minute. Getting ready for SEMA, long story short, I ended up working on this thing. SEMA load-in day every year is Monday. At 4 o'clock on Sunday, my friends are like, we need to load this thing in your trailer and you need to get on the road, dude, because you're just not going to make it there. And I'm like, but I have one more idea. Right, so I'm thinking about this thing and I'm like, well, I made those vents and like the valve covers kind of like play off of this thing and like, they've got some aluminum accents here and there in the car. And I'm like, there's something missing inside it. And I come up with this plan. I'm like, I'm going to make aluminum floor mats that match the vents. So this really highlights the interior. Those aluminum floor mats I made, which I think were just a great addition to the car. Really tied it all together. Draw it up in CAD, cut it out on a plasma cutter, finish it. literally my friends are like pushing the car in the trailer as I'm like finishing off these things and slap them in there. I'm like, oh man, they look so cool. This is going to be so great. So I'm working on like no sleep. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday, and I got to drive to Vegas from the San Francisco Bay Area, from Oakland. I've got a long drive ahead of me. So strap the car down, make sure everything's good, hammer down. I do what I do best. I drive. And I drive, all night. Can't remember exactly what time I showed up at my hotel in Vegas, but I pull up there. I've got an F-350. I've got a 26-foot long trailer. And I just roll into valet, and I get out of the truck, and I'm like, oh, man. Valet walks up, and he goes, what do we got here? And I'm like, well, I got a car going to SEMA, blah, blah, blah. Can you help me get it out? Mind you, this is, a painted car. It's beautiful, and, if anybody knows enclosed trailers, you drop the thing, and there's wires, and you can't really see behind you. So I climb in the door, and I back up. I start this thing up, and the valet's instantly like, whoa. We back out. I pull it up front, I forgot what hotel it was, but it was one of the newer hotels in Vegas at the time, and they had a fountain out front. And I park it kind of near the fountain, right in front. And I look at the guy, and he goes, okay, what do you want me to do with this? And I reach into my pocket, and I pull out a $100 bill, and I go, watch it. And I go, it doesn't leave here. I'll be here at 8 in the morning. And I think it was like 3 in the morning at this point anyway. And he goes, what do you want me to do with my tow rig? I dropped the keys in his hand, and I said, I don't care. And I walk in, I check into my hotel. I'm like, I need my room, and I need a beer now. Next morning, I wake up. Walk down, car's still there, great. Valet gives me the keys, hop in it, fire it up. Drive it down the road, it was a couple miles. Pull into the lot where they're loading in. Call my contact at Ron Francis. Hey, I'm here. And they said, okay, we'll meet you. We'll guide you into the booth. And loading day at SEMA is insane. Right? There was literally hundreds of people bringing stuff into this place, and there's union workers on carts, and they're carrying stuff, and I'm just me in my car, fire the thing up, driving into this building, and I'm driving in, and I'm negotiating like there's people passing this way, people passing that way, boxes on forklifts, it's nuts. I'm looking, and there's this guy like running behind me, and he's huffing and puffing, and we get into the Ron Francis booth, and we, take our time kind of backing it up, setting it at the right angle, get it set up, and, they say, okay, good. We park it. I get out, and this guy that's been running behind me is like, my name's Johnny. I'm the editor of Mopar Muscle Magazine. Can I shoot this car on Monday for the magazine? Because this thing is amazing. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I don't have plans on Monday. So cars at SEMA. I've been to SEMA a few times before this. This was a goal for me. I didn't think it was going to happen this fast. So car's sitting there, and I'm super stoked. And I'm like, wow, it's going to get shot for a magazine on Monday. Like this is my dream. Like it's actually happening. Like stuff's going down. Show's great. I kept hung out in the booth with the guys a lot of the week during SEMA. Helping them sell their products, showing people the stuff that I put in the car, and this is really cool, and we love their products because they do this, and their customer service is awesome, and their technical line is great. I can call the owner of the company if I have a question. Still can, by the way. The next day, I remember a couple guys walking around the car. They've got these jackets on that say Tucci, and I'm like, okay, I think I know that guy. That guy's a famous builder on the East Coast, Tucci Hot Rods. And there's a whole group of them, and it's like the whole shop, basically. And these guys are checking this thing out. The one guy, he starts talking to me, and he goes, did you build this? And I go, yeah. And he goes, we heard about this car, so we had to come look at it. And he's like, man, this is really well done. And he goes, who painted it? Charlie Hutton? Which, if you don't know Charlie Hutton, he's like kind of the most famous painter in the industry, right? And I go, no, sir, I did. And he goes, well, you did an amazing job. So super proud moment for me. Another builder is like, giving me props. SEMA's great. At the end of the day, it's a trade show, not a car show. The cars are there to attract people to booths so that they come and look at the products, which, a lot of people think it's just a big car show. Not what it's about. It's about doing business. It's about shaking hands, kissing babies. It's about making deals on product. It's about finding new products and things like that. But I had a long weekend, ended up driving closer to LA, hanging out, had to be at the photo studio at Hot Rod Magazine at like 7 in the morning on Monday morning. So, got there, showed up, forgot that LA traffic sucks, so I was a little late because I'm towing a 26-foot trailer, pulling it a lot, unload this thing, and I'm just like, this is amazing. I'm at Hot Rod Magazine's offices, and I'm about to pull a car into a photo studio with a world famous photographer. This is so cool. Pulled the car in, we set it up. Photographer George, really cool guy. Some of the magazine shots, George is such a good guy, such a great photographer. I've been on photo shoots before because I used to work in advertising. I know what a set looks like. We had a lot of fun, shot the car all day. Just mind-blowing. I had no idea what was gonna happen after that. It just kind of set the wheels in motion for my business. A few months later, this comes out with my car on the cover. Now, this is a black car. They don't put black cars on covers of magazines because they don't pop. They don't sell magazines. It's pretty rare. So, another notch in my belt that I've got a black car on the cover of a national magazine. This is super cool. I love I collaborated with the editor and we talked about the story of the car and kind of the simplicity of the build and, why it's an underappreciated platform. But it's a good platform because it's a little smaller than some of the other cars. It's a little lighter. This car wasn't built as necessarily like a race car. It's not a drag race car. It wasn't a road race car, but it handled really well. I would take it up here in Northern California. There's a famous place called Alice's Restaurant on this canyon road. And every time I drove up there, I would be following guys on sport bikes. And I'm taking the turns with them. And they're looking back at me like, how are you keeping up with me? We're going through these twisty roads and trees. And, it's the kind of road that you want to drive on. Because early in the morning, the sun's shining through the trees. There's a little bit of water on the road. There's steam coming up from the road. It's a beautiful setting. Redwoods, if you've ever been to Northern California, you get the picture. And then I would always stop and park and check out all the other cars and have breakfast, and people would ask me questions. I'm driving a 911. How are you keeping up with me? Well, buddy, this is 360 cubic inches, and it's about 400 and some horsepower, so, I can keep up with you. I might not be able to take the turn as fast as you, but I can come out of it a lot faster. And as soon as you get a straight piece of road in this thing, and then the magazine comes out, and, all of a sudden the phone starts ringing, right? I built another car similar to this for a guy, tried to sell him this one, tried to talk him out of building another car. And I was like, look, I built this thing to sell, because I have a business here. If I don't sell cars, they just become a part of me and they're the only thing that I'm known for. So this Dart was obviously inspired by Darth Vader. Customer contacted me, wanted a very similar car built. And I said, I don't want to build the same car twice, so let's do it a little different. It's got a similar stance. It's got similar components. This one happens to have a fuel-injected 360. When I came up with the paint scheme and the customer gave me carte blanche, he was like, just do whatever you think. I trust you. That car is so beautiful. I just want you to do something cool. I was like, what would be really cool? To build a car that looks kind of like a Revell plastic model that you took out of the box and put it together. So I was like, I don't want it to be shiny paint. I want to do a satin eggshell kind of paint. And we came up with this color basically by me sitting in the mixing station, and I took a gallon of black and I had a quart of blue and a quart of white. And I kind of had in my head what I wanted. I wanted this black but not black, a little bit of blue feel to it. I just would pour a little bit of blue, a little bit of white, mix, pour a little bit more, mix. We ended up calling this car Dark Side of the Moon because that color looks like some kind of weird moon photograph scape. But it really sold that idea of it looks like a plastic model. So this is the car as we bought it. And we didn't go to the nines with this car. We built it, on a budget for the guy. We didn't strip the whole car. We just, kind of tightened it all up and primed it and sprayed it. Single stage paint. Did some vinyl graphics here that have actually the new Dart logo. So You know, that car was obviously a flop. Hardly anyone bought them. They weren't that great. But I like the idea of putting some kind of new little bend into it that, you know, I think at that time the car wasn't even out yet, but I was able to find some press stuff from it, and I, you know, just hand drew the logo in Illustrator and cut it out in the vinyl. So we did kind of a bumblebee stripe, but not really a bumblebee stripe because it sits a little bit further back on the deck lid. Slightly different details on this car. This thing had Blueprint crate 360 with fast fuel injection. Fun story about this car is it got picked to shoot for the magazine. Again, I think this one was in Carcraft. And I got to go down to LA again to shoot it in the same studio with the same photographer, George. Really good time. I pull up in the morning, we unload the car, I'm pulling it into the photo studio, and this thing, again, sounded amazing. It just... And I pull it in the studio, and George and I get it all set up. He's getting ready to shoot, and I get a text on my phone. Oh, it's Mike Finnegan. Oh, he's next door in the Hot Rod Garage studio shooting, and that car is like shaking the walls. And he's like, I didn't know you were in town. Let's go hang out. So meet up with him that evening after we're done shooting. And he's like, hey, I'm doing this thing tomorrow. It's called Zip Tie Drags. We're doing this drag race event in Tucson. It's like 6 hours away. You want to come with us? And I'm like, okay. I call my customer. I'm like, hey, can I take the car for a couple more days and go do this thing? And he's like, yeah, sure. But if you break it, you bought it. So we end up going to the first, it's now called Duct Tape Drags, David Freiberger's event, but it was Zip Tie Drags then. We ended up going to the first one, met up with some people that I know. Mike and I drove together a bit of the way. And then I ended up driving with the MC for the event for a while. Really cool guy. We swapped stories the whole ride. 6 hours went by like that. Show up at the drag strip, did a pass, I think Jacob Davis took that shot. Me staging up, getting ready to go. Beautiful shot right on Tucson Dragway. Anyway, car ended up, I'm not a drag racer. I'm just, especially in a manual car. This was a 5-speed car. So I'm not a drag racer, but Sam Strube happened to be at the event. And that guy is a drag racer. And I know him. And if you guys know him, he's the guy who built the F-Rod for David. Local guy here in Northern California. I've known him probably 15 years. My nickname for him is Smiling Sam because he's always got a smile on his face. Good, super good guy. Next day, I'm like, Sam, take this thing for a spin. Let's see what this thing can really do. And he gets in it. He stages. He goes. I'm watching him. Launch is beautiful. Second gear, beautiful. Third gear, great. He goes into fourth and the handle for the shifter comes off. And if anybody knows Tremec, TKOs, and TKXs, the shifters are kind of the weak point. And what there is there's these little clips inside there that can break on a hard shift. And that's what happened, basically. But Sam just let off at that point. He was just going for fourth, rolled through the traps, not even on the gas, and the car did a 11 something. And Sam comes around and he's like, shifter came off my hand. I'm like, yeah, I thought something went wrong. And he's like, this car is amazing. He's like, it just whatever you did to the rear suspension, don't change a thing because it launched like holy hell. And I was like, looked at the slip and I'm like, that's pretty fast. He was like, I wasn't even on the gas half the track. I'm like, wow, this is like a 10-second car probably, easy. I wasn't even trying to build a drag car and apparently I built a drag car. So really fun story, really great customer. We had a lot of fun with this build. And I think when we started building it, the guy was living in Vietnam and then he moved to the States and now he's in Texas. So cool car, inspired by Darth Vader, similar, but not the same. Again, I think when we found this car in the desert, we had to pay probably twice what it was worth because my car had already been out for a while. Kind of became known as the A-body guy, which I don't know, good thing, bad thing, whatever. At the time it worked. This car kind of set in motion a lot of things, and even just the adventures that I had done leading up to this. This car, when it went to SEMA, it had one of the first sets of Gibson kind of open baffle stainless mufflers on it. I think then they called them BMFs. They had to change the name because they got sued. So there were MWAs. I mean, when I was rolling out of the SEMA show into SEMA Ignited, which is where the public can go, the sales guy was like, hit the throttle, man. And I wrapped that throttle to holy hell. And he comes up to me with an armful of beer like 20 minutes later. And he's like, dude, I just sold so many mufflers. This is awesome. And then, after SEMA, had a lot of fun adventures in this car, man. There was good opportunities and good fun just driving it around. And, I ended up actually taking this car to a car show in LA, the Mopar, I think it was the Spring Fling. And it's kind of funny because I did win an award, but I won second place. Even though it was on the cover of a magazine, won second place for Chrysler A-Body because I wasn't a member of their car club. So as things happen, one, I had fun in LA with that car because valet parking it was hilarious. I'm at, a nice hotel, valet park it. It's the guy's like, I don't even know what I'm looking at here, right? And it starts up and everybody in the hotel's like, what is that? That was always fun. We leave the car show, leave LA, and I'm driving to the desert because one of my good friends is doing a key handing ceremony for this property he just bought for a bed and breakfast in Joshua Tree. Driving up the desert road, 29 Palms Highway, I'm kind of looking ahead and I'm like, those look like rain clouds. That's not good. This car has drag slicks on it. I'm like, oh, I hope it doesn't rain. This kind of sucks, but whatever, it's a car. And driving up 29 Palms Highway, all of a sudden just sky opens up. Holy hell, rain. I pull over to the right. I slow down to 25, maybe 30 miles an hour. I'm kind of white knuckling the steering wheel oh, this is not fun. I'm like, should I pull over? Look at my girlfriend. I don't know. What do you think? And then all of a sudden, we're spinning. The drag slicks in the rain were not happy climbing up a mountain road. And I ended up kissing the K-wall with the front, which sent the car violently backward, hit the rear quarter panel on the other side. Pull over, everybody okay? Yes, we're all right. Car still runs. Car does not look good. And this car is sponsored to go on Hot Rod Power Tour with Pilot Transport in a month. So I gotta rebuild the car again. Thankfully, I had good insurance. I had Grundy insurance at the time. So immediately called them to make sure my coverage hadn't lapsed. I don't have much time to deal with this because, again, I'm a man of my word. If someone's gonna sponsor to take my car all the way across the country to be in a display at Hot Rod Power Tour, I'm gonna be there. Insurance company sends their adjuster out. He looks at the car. Mind you, I had already ordered the parts I needed. I was not going to wait for my insurance check to get this thing going. Guy walks into the shop and he goes, whoa, lots of nice stuff here. He goes, I'm assuming you've already written your own estimate? And I'm like, yes. And he's like, okay, I just need your parts list. So he looks at it, writes it up. He's like, yep, legit. Now, this accident, it wasn't just the fender and the quarter panel. Because it hit so hard when it spun, every panel on the car shook. So the door to the quarter panel chips. Door to fender chips. Every single panel on this car had damage at the time. Sectioned in the quarter, fixed the trunk where it was folded up, fixed all the, bumpers needed to be replaced, whole car needed to be resprayed. What made it happen, went to Power Tour. I mean, again, another one of those events where if you haven't gone, just go because it is just fun. You're driving your car with thousands of other people driving their cool cars through small town America. People are hooting and hollering at you. People are throwing candy in your window. People are asking you to do burnouts. Cops are telling you to do burnouts. It is so fun. Ended up shooting some video with Gibson exhaust at that Power Tour. Super fun. remember Deb and I we're driving in the car, and we're like, I think we're in like Kansas, and we're on this road that's dead straight, kind of slow rolling hills, but you can see probably 5 miles in front of you. And, you know, the Gibson guys are shooting all these videos, and they've got a camera guy like in the back and a camera guy hanging out the window. And the camera guy hanging out the window, just like he's holding his camera, and he just looks at me and he goes, "Side, mash it." We rip right by them, and I just kept my foot in it. And I'm looking over at Deb, and we're on this road, and I'm like, I can see there's no cops. And it's smooth, and we're just rolling. And I'm just watching that digital dash just climb up, climb up, climb up. I'm like, okay, 100, 110, 115, 120, 130. Like, wow, this car's remarkably stable at 130 miles an hour. I think I got it up to about 135-ish. And I look over at Deb and I go, I'm a little too comfortable. And if something runs out in front of us, we might die. So back off, slow down. A few minutes later, the guys catch up in their SUV. And they're like, man, when you hit it, you were just gone. And they were like, it's such a good shot. Anyway, fun times. I think later on in that power tour, one morning, we're at a hotel and I get up early, right? I'm kind of one of those freaks that gets up at 5 a.m. every day. I get up early, I go down to the lobby, I get myself a coffee, and I'm standing there, and my buddy Mike Finnegan is like, "Hey buddy, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, you know, Deb and I are getting ready to drive today." And he's like, "Well, there's a group of us getting ready to leave. We want you to hang." So I had to run upstairs and tell Deb, "Okay, get ready fast, we're going." Again, another one of those fun stories. Like, I'm hanging out with Finnegan, I think Emily and Aaron Reeves were there, like before they kind of blew up. Like, we're all just having fun. We're driving our cars. We're doing the route. We're not shooting any video. We're not signing any autographs. We're just having fun. You know, of course, I have to keep calling Mike and tell him, "Dude, I got to stop for gas." He's like, "Again?" I'm like, "This thing gets like 4 miles to a gallon." Sorry. He was in the muscle truck. Anyway, we split off that day. Mike and I, he's like, "Hey, let's go get some lunch, you and Deb and I." So we split off from the group, we get some lunch, and we're having a great lunch, and we're at this random restaurant in the middle of God knows where. And he's like, "Shit, I gotta get back. Like, I've got appearances to do and like stuff like that." And I'm like, "All right," so we haul ass. And it was fun because like, here Mike's in the muscle truck and Deb and I are in the Dart, and like, we're just like trading places, like going way beyond the speed limit to get to the end of the tour. I think we were in Austin at that point, and we were at Coda. We get to the end, and, you know, hanging out with people that I know and like, and, you know, that was actually the power tour too, where I met Ross, who works for me. He's been working for me since he was 18. He just turned 26. I actually remember meeting him twice. Once I was stopping for gas, and he was in this orange C10, and I was like, "Hey kid, cool truck." And he was like, "Oh, that's a cool car." Well, the next day, my buddies from Treadwear were broken down, and Deb and I were driving along. We see their car. It's this like Dale Tribute, you know, Monte Carlo thing, and they're broken down. And I'm like, "Oh, pull over. Let's help the guys out." So we pull over, and there's this kid and his dad there, and they're already helping him. And this kid's got the HEI distributor out of the car, and he's got it half apart, and he's, "Dad, go get me this from the truck. Go get me that from the truck." I'm like, "Oh, that's the orange truck I saw a couple days ago or whatever." Anyway, I'm just standing there watching. Deb's like making sandwiches for everybody. We're hanging out, and I'm looking at this kid, and he's just like fixing this distributor and talking to his old man. And I go, "How old's your boy?" And he goes, 16. And I go, "I think that kid should work for me one day." And he goes, "Nah, he's going to work for his dad. He's going to be a carpenter." I had total other plans for Ross and his future. So we exchanged numbers and stuff. And anyway, that last day of the tour where we ended up at Coda, it's hot. Texas is hot in the summer. So Mike calls me, and he's like, after we get there and he does his appearances and everything, he calls me. He says, "Hey, David and I are doing something. We need you to meet us over here." And I'm like, "Okay." Deb and I walk over there. David and Mike have the muscle truck with a blue tarp in the bed, and they have filled it with water and ice. So it's like this ice bath. And I mean, again, it's Texas. It's like June. It's 120 degrees. So we're all hanging out. Mike, David, I think the guy who does like the auto archaeologist guy was there. He was super fun to talk to. Emily and Aaron were there. And I text Ross and I'm like, we're just hanging out in this little pool in the muscle truck. And we're having a grand old time swapping stories. And I text Ross and I'm like, hey Ross, you should come over to this part. And he's like, no, my dad and I are leaving. I can't. Like, and I'm like, you really should. Anyway, him and his dad walk over and he sees what we're doing and he's just like, oh my God, these guys are my idol. He loses his shit and he's like taking selfies. He's like, my friends are never going to believe me. Long story short, kept in touch with the kid 2 years later, flew him out to California for spring break, did a little trial run. When he graduated, he moved out to California, came to work for me, still does. Things that the Dart, if I hadn't built that car, never would have happened. If I hadn't gone out there and done fun stuff, never would have happened. You know, I ended up, again, I said, I built the car to sell. I'm not going to let it define me. Tried to sell it on Bring a Trailer once. Not the right place to sell a muscle car like that, at least at that time. Nowadays, maybe they've gotten a lot bigger. Didn't meet reserve, not even close. Wasn't going to give the car away. But I got to have some interesting interactions. I'm a marketer, and it was kind of cool. Bring a Trailer's a local company here in Northern California. They're national now, of course, but ended up having some people come look at the car. And one guy in particular, I remember, he walks up and he checks out the shop and he's checking out the car and he's looking it over, checking it out. And he looks at me and he goes, you're not just a car guy. Did you by chance used to be like an art director or graphic designer? And I was like, both. How did you know? And he's like, well, only an art director would make the decisions that you've made, like the colors, sheens, the particular way you did things. Like, it's all just really well done, like it says on your shirt, sweat every detail. Tried to sell it at Russo and Steel in Monterey during Monterey Car Week. Didn't work out. Anyway, ended up finally just saying, you know what, I got to get rid of this thing because it's going to define me. I'm just going to go to Barrett-Jackson in Scottsdale, sell it no reserve, whatever happens, happens. Drove it down there, hung out the whole week talking to people. Because if you're going to auction off a car, stand in front of your car and talk to people about it, right? Day it goes up for auction. I kind of got screwed on my slot a little bit. It was early morning on Thursday, I think. I think it went right when the inauguration speech for Donald Trump's first term was happening. So no one there. And I'm sweating bullets and I'm like, crap, this thing's going no reserve. I don't know what's going to happen. I hop in it when my slot comes up and I pull it up to the staging area and there's like 15 guys there. And they're there to see that car because they knew it was going and they had seen it in the magazine. They'd maybe seen it on, I think Mike Musto did an episode of Big Muscle the first time I built it, which kind of made me internet famous. This was kind of the first piece of media that was done on this car. Mike Musto, many car people know him. He's had this show back in the day called Big Muscle on the Drive Network. There's guys there and they're checking it out and they're opening and shutting the doors and they're looking under it and they're, fine tooth combing it. No one's asking me any questions. They're just looking at the car and I'm like, okay. Well, one guy comes up and he asks me questions. And he goes, tell me something about this car. Like, what's the story? And I tell him about how I drive these canyon roads and I have a lot of fun and I'm pushing guys in 911s and, all the hijinks that I've done with it. And it's been in this magazine and, it's been on this YouTube video. Like really, it was just like a car guy talking to a car guy. Long story short, that guy ends up buying the car. Turns out that guy has never owned a muscle car. He's a Porsche collector. He's got roof Porsches. He's got, the rarest of the rare. And he's just like, something about that car. I was literally in the tent where your car was parked looking at a Porsche. And when you started it up, I had to follow it. And he goes, the noise that it made was just amazing. And he's like, and you talking about it, he's like, this car could have gone for 200 grand and I still would have taken it home. And he's like, I got lucky. I don't even know what the hammer price was, 70-some thousand bucks, right? Fine price for a Chrysler A-body. I needed it gone. I needed the capital to grow my business. Worked out. So the car at this point lives in Fargo, North Dakota with a Porsche collector in his garage surrounded by Porsches. And I know this. And I know he still owns it because every once in a while, I get a text from a guy who works for him or a DM on Instagram. And he'll send me a picture of the car, surrounded by Porsches. And he says, Still has it, still drives it all the time. When the guy wants to go out to the bar, he drives that car. Why? Because no one pays attention to a Porsche. Everybody pays attention to that car. It's a car that started this whole trajectory for my career in the shop and the people that worked for me, pushed into other builds. I think it really kind of changed the market for that car, because after I built that car, after it got in the magazine, people started seeing what these cars were worth and they wanted to build them. They were like, wow, I can take a cheap car and build it really cool and it's a fun platform. Well, now they're not cheap. So I kind of ruined it for everybody because, to buy a decent straight car, you're paying 4 or 5x what you were back when I bought this car. I mean, as that car was originally bought half stripped and with the parts and everything, I mean, it's a $15,000 buy today. Fun exercise in restraint. I think one of the cooler things about it is it's a car that went to SEMA that's not a $300,000 show build painted by Charlie Hutton, with a billet shifter and all the latest, greatest technology, It was a simple, bare bones, down and dirty muscle car, like the magazine cover says, street fighter. And that was a really good term that they put to that car, because that's kind of what it was. It was like, hey man, I'm a teenage kid and I want a cool car. I'm going to take this thing out and I'm going to street race, and I'm going to have the coolest car out there. That's really what it's about. Getting out there and doing things is what really set it off. And, I'm really proud of that car. Maybe one day I'll buy it back. Maybe the Porsche collector will let me have it so that I can have that piece of my history back in my hands. If not, who cares? Cars are cars. They're meant to be driven. They're meant to have fun in. I also have a very strong opinion about black cars. And a lot of people say, in fact, I was listening to a podcast the other day, an industry podcast, and they said, nobody puts black cars on the cover of magazines. Well, obviously they do, because it's done. So I'm going to email those guys and tell them it's been done. I feel that black cars really show the lines of a car better than any other color. And you have to take the risk. I mean, yes, it's a pain in the ass for upkeep. Yes, the body's got to be perfectly straight. But if a car can't look good black, it can't look good any other color. So that's my statement of the day.